So today I want to talk about what to do if, let's say, you either did or didn't go to the emergency room right after a crash. Let's say it's the day after, maybe 2 days later. Can you still go to the doctor and should you? Yes, and yes. And here's why. Some injuries don't show up right away. Actually, I would say a lot of injuries that people sustain in car accidents don't show up right away. The adrenaline, the rush, the sort of all that, the shock that goes into a crash can kind of hide those symptoms. And sometimes it's not until you sit down, you sleep for a while, that the pain starts to set in, that the injuries to those muscles and soft tissues start to reveal themselves. So even if it's the next day, especially if it's the next day and you haven't been to the doctor yet, go to the doctor. Emergency room, if it is a serious injury, sort of a life threatening injury, go to the urgent care if it's not life threatening but serious. And your primary care physician, if for some reason you can't get to either of those, or you've already gone to the emergency room and or urgent care, and a lot of times they will recommend that you follow up with your primary care physician. So you want to do that. There's a lot of injuries that sort of have a delayed onset. Things like whiplash. So you wake up with a sore neck, concussions. Even you may not start to develop headaches right away, dizziness, light sensitivity. Sometimes those can show up hours or even days later. Even evidence of an internal, if you have an internal injury, bleeding or something like that, may not be obvious right away. So even if you don't go to the emergency room from the scene of the crash, it's still a good idea to go and get checked out if there's any possibility that you were injured, even if it's later that day or the next day, but sooner rather than later. So why is that important? Two reasons why it's important to get to the doctor sooner rather than later. Number one, obviously, you want to make sure that you don't have a serious injury, or your loved one doesn't have a serious injury. You want to go there, get checked out, and make sure that if there's something that has been injured, something that isn't obvious, that it gets taken care of as soon as possible. Second of all, insurance companies love delays. They love delays. They love gaps in treatment. They look for any unusually long time that it takes people to go to the doctor. So if you wait days before going to the doctor, insurance companies love that, because that to them looks like evidence that someone is maybe not all that badly injured, or maybe they're not injured at all and they're faking it. So delays are the friend of the insurance company. So get to the doctor, get to the emergency room if necessary, or urgent care. And then when you go to urgent care, follow up with your primary care physician, get a referral to something like a chiropractor or physical therapy if necessary. If you if you if you've seen a chiropractor in the past, or if you're going to a chiropractor for the first time, it's still a really good idea to see a primary care physician either before or around the same time. Nothing against chiropractors, but insurance companies don't really take chiropractors seriously. So it's really important that you also see a primary care physician, whether you're going to see a chiropractor or not. So how do you pay for those bills? How do you pay for your medical bills from a crash? So there's a variety of ways, and I get a lot of questions about this, and I see people make mistakes when it comes to this. So first of all, you probably have, or someone has, med pay. In some states it's PIP, or no fault, it's PIP in Minnesota. But uh, on under your auto insurance policy, there's going to be, generally, unless it's waived, some coverage for initial medical care. Things like going to the doctor, taking an ambulance ride, getting x-rays and things like that. Maybe a few $100s, maybe a few $1,000s of coverage, but it's there regardless of whose fault the crash was. Keep in mind that in a lot of insurance policies that only last for up to a year. You can only use that med pay for medical care that occurs in the first year. But use the med pay. You're probably paying for it. Take advantage of it to cover those medical expenses. Second of all, health insurance. A lot of people are surprised that they should use their health insurance to cover medical expenses caused by someone else. And while I understand that, it's actually important that you use your health insurance. And in fact, generally, you want to use a health insurance before using PIP coverage because it'll make your your med pay and PIP coverage go a lot further. And if you talk to an attorney, they can help explain that to you. But if you have health insurance, it's perfectly fine to use your health insurance to pay for medical expenses, even if it was caused by someone else. Same thing with Medicaid or Medicare. If you're eligible for Medicaid or Medicare, use that to pay for your medical expenses, going to the doctor, chiropractic, physical therapy, things like that. Another option might be workers' compensation. Perhaps you or your loved one was working at the time. Maybe they were driving truck or driving car for their employer. They may actually be covered by workers' compensation, and that may also be able to cover those medical expenses as well as provide some benefits for like lost earnings and things like that, if in fact it's a workers' compensation claim. Finally, sometimes people just have to work out a payment plan. Most hospitals and clinics will allow people to make monthly payments, even a small amount of monthly payments. So try not to let the concern about the medical expenses deter you or your loved ones from seeking medical attention, especially immediately after, to make sure that there's no serious or life-threatening injuries going on. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to this, and I'll talk about this in other videos too, is medical expenses paid, regardless of the source, whether it's Medicare, health insurance, MedPay, workers' compensation, whatever, will generally be entitled to get reimbursed if there's a later settlement or a trial verdict or something like that. We call that subrogation. So they will probably have a right to reimbursement. Your attorney will help negotiate with them if it comes time to settle the case, but it's something you want to use at the time to make sure that you're getting that medical care, even if it means setting up a payment plan with the hospital or clinic. Because, like I said, insurance companies love delays in treatment and they love gaps in treatment.